Welcome everybody, Ravenar here, and this is our long-awaited tier list that I have been talking about putting out for you guys for a while. So we're going to be trying to do this in a single cut, and I do want to remind you guys, first and foremost, make sure you guys do check out my Twitch channel. I'm going to be posting a link to that down below in the description, and of course, check out my YouTube channel as well. Check out my other videos. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe to my YouTube channel, all that normal YouTube stuff. And like I said, we're going to be doing this all in one cut. I just got out of the shower. I wanted to get this out to you guys. I have a little bit of a sore throat, so I'll probably be drinking water throughout this just to try to push through. Generally, I try not to drink water during these recordings just to keep the flow going, but we're not going to really worry about it today. We're just going to get this out there any way we can. But of course, I do want to preface this by saying this tier list is for the I'm going to say gold silver rank. I currently reside in about high silver, low gold. I fluctuate to high gold, sometimes mid silver. So we're relatively going to say this rank, this tier list is for we're going to say probably about the to mid to low gold range, high silver. I am going to preface this by saying I do understand some of these characters will be ranked much higher if you're a much higher skilled player, but let's keep in mind that we are specifically talking about, skill for skill at this rank, not your Smurf Maev in diamond playing in silver. Obviously, we are going to be keeping that in mind as we do this. So just, keep that in mind. But anyway, let's get started. We're going to start out here with Phoenix. As far as Phoenix goes, I'm going to probably put him C tier. I don't really see a whole lot of Phoenixes being played, and the ones I do see him played are never really that impactful. You get the random Planet Cracker combo with like Entomb on Leo. Generally, nothing really too fancy. Same thing to do with Maev. Maev is going to fluctuate between C and D tier. I wouldn't really your general silver gold Maev is not going to do a whole lot other than die. Mal'Ganis is going to be an interesting one. I'm going to put him in B tier. He's very susceptible to CC. He is one of those where the higher you climb, the lower he probably gets as your team gets better at CCing him. Maev being very susceptible to CC isn't as big of an issue when you're playing in silver gold rank. So we're going to put him a little bit higher than he probably would be as you climb higher. Orphea's going to be in that same boat as well. Orphea I'm going to put in B tier. She probably fluctuates between B and C, but we'll settle her in B tier. Same deal, very susceptible to CC. Whitemane. Whitemanes I honestly feel like are pretty strong. Uh, Again, it's that same deal. She's very susceptible to CC, and when you don't have that CC on her, then you're going to have a pretty free reign to just cast your abilities. So we're going to settle her in B tier. Abathur, D. Not a big fan of Abbas. Most Abbas that aren't Smurfs in silver gold are generally not really that effective. Half of them pick it because they're tilted, but the ones that don't, I feel like are never really that effective. So we're going to settle Abba in the D tier. Alarak, same deal. High skill cap. We could probably fluctuate between D and C tier. We'll probably put Alarak in the C tier. It's just a very difficult combo based hero, so we're not really going to get too much there. Alex, C tier. Again, her AoE healing is very telegraphed, and I feel like just the way her kit works, she's very useful on certain maps. We're talking about the broad overall. Maps like Braxis, maps like Infernal Shrines, she'd obviously climb up a little bit. But overall average, I'm going to put her in C tier just because I feel like that's where she's best suited. Anna, D tier, almost F tier. I feel like Anna is not really that useful. She doesn't really see a whole lot of play. I'd honestly, she's fluctuating between D and F tier, but we're going to settle her in D tier. I feel like she is very difficult to make work at low ranks, and her skill shot base very hard. Anduin, S. Anduin is going to be S tier. His life grip is D, whatever you want to call it. Very, very strong from pulling people who are always going to be out of position. Doesn't mean they don't walk back in after getting pulled out. Anduin, very, very effective. I put him between S and A tier, but maybe biased because I play a lot of Anduin, but I've definitely put him in S tier. I feel like he's very, very strong. Anubrak, again, very susceptible to CC. I fluctuate between A and B tier when it comes to Anubrak. Again, you get that CC talk as well. I feel like Anubrak is probably going to say a healthy B tier. And I mean, almost want to say A. I don't know. You know, you get that in Nubrak syndrome. We're gonna probably put him in B tier. Let's go ahead and look at Artanis. I'm not a big fan of Artanis personally, but I know he is very popular. Artanis, obviously, I say this a lot with Artanis. If you're not picking amateur opponent, don't pick Artanis. Pick a different bruiser. We're going to settle him in probably C tier. He'd probably fluctuate between C and B tier, so I think we'll probably put him in C. Honestly, nah. Well, we'll go ahead and put him in C. Arthas, C tier. Very, you know, he can be very strong. You don't really see a whole lot of Arthuses in silver gold. I honestly feel like he could probably be slightly better. He's very easy to kite. If he does stick on someone, he can be a terror, but he can be very easy to kite. Ariel is somebody that I wish was better. I love Ariel. She is one of my favorite healers. I do not think she's in a very good spot right now. Ariel, very reliant on energy and obviously having a decent battery. She does have stuff in her kit to kind of mitigate that herself, but I feel like she is, as one of my favorite healers, I wish she was better, but unfortunately I don't feel like she is. Very niche. If you can get value from your E, things like Braxis, things like Infernal Shrines, things where you can utilize the fact that you don't need mana, she could be useful, but overall I'm going to have to put her in C tier. Asmo, we're going to put in a healthy A. Asmo's one of those where the higher you get, the less value he gets. So the lower rank you are, the higher he's going to get. The higher rank, he's going to fall down. So if you look at a tier list of someone who's master, Asmo's probably D or F tier. But when you're looking at someone who's silver gold, you're going to see Asmo climb up to B, A, S tier even, depending on where you're at. He's very good at split pushing, and just the way that people clump, you're going to get a lot of value from him. So Asmo, a very solid A tier at the gold silver elo. Blaze, just a solid B. I'd say he fluctuates between B and C, but we're going to go ahead and settle him in the B tier. Again, very large hitbox, but he does have a stun. He does have bunker, though most people do pick combustion, and I think he's a very solid pick there. Brightwing, we're going to put in S tier as well. I feel like her global is very strong. Her healing output, when you're not super skilled with her, is going to be a little bit on the low side. You're basically relying on her teleport, but I do feel like she is still relatively good with the global teleport, and she's essentially first pick, first ban. Cassia, we're going to have to put her in C. She's very all right, my mic just died for some reason, so I don't know if it happens when we record sometimes. So we're gonna go ahead and plug that in. I don't know if the mic's actually dying or if there's just an issue with it shutting off, which is setting I'm going to have to look for. I do apologize if that happens a couple more times during the video. Generally, I notice it pretty quickly when it happens, so I do apologize if I missed it. Cassia, low short range is what I was saying with her. She doesn't really get a whole lot of value outside of that because of that short range, so it does make her a little bit harder. We can double back on just in case the headset did cut it off. Ariel, someone who I am very high up on, someone who I did. I is one of my favorite healers. Not a big fan of where she's at. Asmo, the higher you get, the lower he gets. Brightwing, obviously S tier. I think that those might have come through, but I know that we did have our headset cut off. But I think it cut off on the Cassia part. So I think we're good, but I do apologize in advance if it did happen. But anyway, Chen, D tier, very susceptible to CC. You don't see a whole lot of Chens that get value. I'm not the biggest fan of silver, low rank gold Chens. I don't feel like they get a whole lot of value here. When we're looking at, I believe this is, I'm gonna blank on Cho and Gall. So this is Cho, this is Gall. We'll just do them both together. Honestly, we're gonna put both Cho and Gall in D tier or C tier. Map dependent, map specific will definitely give you your value with Cho'Gall. Cho'Gall in general is going to be very late game. So if you're on a map like Volskaya, you could obviously get value. But obviously you don't pick him on a map like Garden of Terror, Cursed Hollow, stuff like that. Uh, And you know, when you're in Storm League, if you're not a group, you're gonna be have a very difficult time with randos playing Cho'Gall. We're gonna put him in a C tier here. Chromie, I personally love Chromie. I would personally place Chromie a little bit higher, but if we're being honest, if we're being fair, I probably would say most Chromies are probably B. Almost all of her abilities are skill shot based, so it's very difficult to get that consistent value if you're not used to her. So we're going to put her in B. She is very, very strong though if you can land those, you know, against like Sergeant Hammers and stuff like that. Deathwing, the unstoppable that the constant unstoppable that Deathwing has is very, very solid. So I think that Deathwing being a solid B tier, very obviously large hitbox is very easy to do damage to, but that unstoppable is brutal in the right hands. Deckard Cain, I love Deckard. He is one of my most played healers right now, but we're going to put him in B tier. It probably fluctuates between B and C tier for Deckard. If anything, we'd almost put him in C tier. I love Deckard, but I don't feel like his lack of cleanse is rough. The fact that you need people to pick up potions, honestly, we're going to move him to C tier for one simple fact. People in silver and gold do not pick up potions. So this isn't really a reflection on Deckard, but the players that are on his team. So pick up potions and maybe we'll move him up the ladder a little bit. I feel like if players pick up potions, he's going to be a lot better there. Unfortunately, we are going to place him in that C tier. I've been having a lot of fun with him recently, but I do recognize that issue that he has where you aren't really getting that potion value. Dahaka, A tier. We're going to potentially almost put him in S tier. He fluctuates between A and S tier easy. I would honestly, we're going to just go ahead and drop him in S tier. It's an either one of them's good. His global, very, very strong. Globals in general, you're going to notice I'm going to place pretty high up on this map or on this tier list. Dahaka, his stun, his sustain, everything just makes him an absolute terror. Diablo, we're going to put in A tier. Obviously, with all the feeding that happens, he gets his souls pretty quickly. A lot of times, obviously, percent damage is going to be his weakness, but I feel like Diablo is pretty good. I'm not personally good on him, but you do see a lot of Diablos in the silver gold rank, and I feel like they are a pretty popular pick. Diva, we're going to put her in probably almost F tier. Um, the only reason I don't put her on F tier is because of Braxis and Infernal Shrines. She has two maps where I would consider her viable. That would be Braxis and that would be Infernal Shrines. Other than that, I don't really see a whole lot of value with Diva. I love Diva. I played her a lot in Overwatch, but she doesn't really provide a whole lot. Her bomb's very telegraphed, easy to walk out of, and in general, she just doesn't really provide a whole lot. ETC, B tier, between B and C, maybe even A. He's very susceptible to CC, much like a lot of them I've put in B tier. He has decent sustain with his kit, provided he doesn't get stunned. Mosh Pit, one of the best alts in the game, if you can execute it successfully. But obviously, pretty solid tank. B tier, not terrible for a tank. So we're gonna go ahead and settle him in there. Falstad, we're gonna put in the A tier because of the global. Honestly, he could be S tier just because of the fact that I feel like a lot of damage dealers won't end up in S tier just because of the overall, skill level of the people playing them. But A tier with the global, with Gust being very, very good, and obviously Hinterland's Blast, does get picked here and there. And no matter what people say, I'm a big Gust advocate myself, but Hinterland's Blast can get value. Garrosh, we put Garrosh in A tier. I don't personally play Garrosh. I don't personally play Garrosh well, but people in low ranks love to walk up and get thrown. So Garrosh, a very easy A tier there. Not quite S tier, but we're going to put him in the A tier. Gazlo, we'll put him in C. He probably fluctuates between C and D tier. Not a big fan of Gazlo. He got reworked several years ago. It pulled him out of probably the meme territory, but nothing really too much. His turrets are annoying. He can be annoying in the right hands, but I don't really put him much higher than C. Genji. Genji's probably between C and D tier. Just a very high skill cap to play. Again, we are talking about your general legitimate silver golds. Obviously, if you're a master diamond Genji, he's going to be placed a lot higher on your tier list, but we're talking about the silver gold Genjis, which generally I will be putting in D tier. Greymane, going to be a very healthy C. He just because of how close range he is and how punished he can get for that, but he does provide a lot of good camp clear. He provides a lot of good damage, and he just does a lot when it comes to like racing the immortal, you know, just clearing out objectives and stuff like that. He's a good all-around kit, but because of his short range and obviously his melee form, that's why we're going to put him a little bit further down. Gul'dan, Gul'dan is probably going to be a B tier, fluctuate between B and A. We're trying to be impartial. I'm a mage player myself, but we're going to go ahead and put Gul'dan in B. Very susceptible to CC, as much are in the B tier, but we're going to go ahead and put him in B. He has very good wave clear, Horrify, one of the best ults in the game, so I think very healthy there. Hanzo is going to be a C tier. Again, I do understand Hanzo at higher ranks is going to be ranked higher, but we're talking about silver gold players here who probably don't land very good scatters, probably take Dragon Strike over Dragon Arrow, and just overall a very skill shot based hero. So you're going to get a little bit lower value from him, but he can still be a nuisance on certain maps. Infernal Shrines, BOE, if you go that W build. Hogger, honestly, Hogger is S tier on a lot of ranks, and I honestly will consider him to be A tier here. I don't personally play Hogger well, but Hogger is definitely one of the characters that is very much in need of a nerf. Hogger is just an absolute terror to play against. Can be even a lower skilled Hogger can still get value. Obviously, your spinning is not going to be as good, but he just provides a whole lot of value. Illidan, C tier, very susceptible to CC. Just kind of got overshadowed over power creep, you know, over the years. There's a lot of things that do counter him. A lot of point and click you can get on him. Hunt, obviously very good with the global on bigger maps, but again, we are going to settle him in the C tier. Jaina is one of those. She is the epitome of what I call a well-balanced hero. She's not OP. She has good wave clear. She has good camp clear. She has good damage. She does it all very well. So we're going to put her in the A tier. I feel like she's probably one of those that falls off as you climb down. She becomes more combo based in team comps that you're trying to execute. Maybe something with Ring of Frost. Both of her ults are viable in silver gold, so it really just depends on the team comp and whatnot. Johanna, S tier. Obviously, Johanna, I think, is going to be S tier on almost anybody's tier list. She might be very boring to play, but she's going to be your epitome of a very, very strong tank. Really, not much else to say from there. Junkrat is going to be S tier on most lists. We're going to go ahead and settle him in B. I would say he probably hovers between B and C tier in the silver gold rank, but we'll probably put him in B tier. Rocket Ride can get value, even though it really shouldn't. Obviously, Junkrat can be a menace to play against, so very heavily in there. KT, A tier. Obviously, we are partial towards mages, but KT is going to be one of those, again, much like Asmo. The higher you get, the lower he gets. Low ranking players are very good at stacking up and spreading that bomb. Honestly, if we're talking about bronze rank, we'd probably put him in S. But he's going to probably hover between the A and the B tier as we are climbing up that gold rank. But he is very, very good in what he does, which is wave clear, damage, and all that stuff. But obviously, KT is going to be your, you know, your noob punisher, if you will. So we're gonna settle him in the A tier. Kel'Thuzad, C. C. He's going to be C to D tier. Not really, doesn't really provide a whole lot, but between C and D tier is going to be our friend Kel'Thuzad, a very combo based hero, which is going to be make things a little bit more difficult for him. The reason he doesn't go to the D tier is you do occasionally get those comps that will help set him up pretty well, or you get a map where it works pretty well. Obviously, if you land those combos, you can be an absolute terror. We're going to probably put Kerrigan in D or even F tier. I'm not a fan of Kerrigan's. I feel like they probably die. Kerrigan is going to be a fan. She's going to fluctuate between D and F tier. I feel like because of how combo based she is, because of everything that she can get punished for, the fact that she has no protection outside of Chrysalis at 13, whereas like Maiev at least has her jump, she has nothing. So Kerrigan will be our very first F tier this tier list. Sorry to all the Kerrigan players out there, but I feel like you're not really going to get a whole lot of value there. Kharazim is going to be, Kharazim is your, I don't want to heal, but we need a healer, so we're going to pick Kharazim. You can be aggressive with him. I say he fluctuates between B and C tier. I'm not personally a big fan of him, but I do see Kharazim's getting, I think I said Kerrigan a bunch. I meant Kharazim. Kharazim's getting a bunch of value. Um, I wanna put him in C tier. I feel like B tier might be better. I don't know. We're gonna put him in C. Don't really like where. I don't think he's quite good enough to be B tier. Um, just because he does not provide a whole lot of healing, but he is one of those where he can get a lot of value in the right team comps if you have an aggressive team comp. Lucio, D, F tier, if you will. I'm not a fan of Lucio's. They provide absolutely no healing till level 16. Your general silver gold Lucio is just going to run around and probably try to be a mosquito. They see these high ranking Lucios run around making all these plays and never dying. Unfortunately, your normal silver gold Lucio, not going to be as successful with that. So it's going to likely be going down. So Lucio going to be D tier. We're going to put Leo in A tier. I am not a Leo player myself, but I do know Leo has a lot with his trait. He has a lot of sustain with his spooky hand, his Q to slow him. He has really good wave clear, can double soak with the best of them. So we're going to put Leo in a very solid A tier for the silver gold rank. Not much other to say other than that. Imperius, honestly, he would probably hover between A and B himself. We're going to settle him in the B tier. I feel like Imperius is very, very good, but I feel like he is probably better suited in the B tier, does a lot of damage. Li-Ming, I mean, we put her in A tier. I don't play her myself, but I mean, silver gold players are going to be magnets for orbs. So I feel like that is a very good spot for her to be in. So I feel like that is going to be a very good spot for her to be in. Maps that need a lot of wave clear, Braxis, for example, she's not going to see as much value. Maps like Infernal Shrines, obviously, there's a lot of minions to block it. But overall, I feel like Li-Ming is a very, very solid A tier. Lily, not a fan of Lily's. They're more mosquito-y than anything else. They don't really provide a ton of healing even after the Lily buff. But I feel like she's played well. You can keep yourself alive. We're gonna settle her in C. She probably hovers between C and maybe D. Honestly, we're just gonna say she's a very solid C tier. Obviously Jugs is very good. Water Dragon and double support comps can get a lot of value. She's very hard to kill, but she doesn't provide a whole lot, though she does have the best cleanse in the game with a cleanse on, I believe, a 30-second cooldown with a little mini heal. Medic. We're going to put Medic in C tier. Honestly, Medic is probably one of those where the higher she goes, she probably would maybe start in B or C tier and then fall from there. I don't think she ever really, if we're not talking about Braxis, which is probably her best map, she's not really going to get a whole lot of value. Very, very susceptible to dive. She can pump out a bunch of healing, which is when you really would see that value. Probably would, if we're in bronze, maybe B tier where people can't really punish that. But she's pretty easy to punish, and obviously the higher you get, the lower you get. If we're talking Master Diamond, she's probably F tier. Would not be surprised at all. But we're going to settle her in C tier. Very average healer, very easy to punish. Lunara, very same boat. We're going to put her in C tier. People like to throw out the term fake damage. Not necessarily residing to supporting that. Even fake damage needs to be healed or forces people back, so I don't necessarily know if I would call her fake damage, but her damage isn't bursty for the most part outside of certain builds. But I think that what she brings to the table is consistent damage, which is why we'll settle her in C tier. But she doesn't do anything overly fancy, so she'd probably hover between C and B tier, but we are going to go ahead and put her in C tier. I think she's very good there. Malfurion, not a big fan of Malf. Very susceptible to CC. I don't see a whole lot of Malfs get value in silver gold. I'd almost put him at D tier. The Malf rework made him a lot harder to play. I do know he does have, if you can position yourself safely, he can be very, very strong. But obviously, in those low ranks, you're not really going to get that safety. So C to almost D tier for him. Malthel, same deal. C. He is very susceptible to CC, does not really provide a whole lot outside of that percent damage. So we're not going to see a whole lot from him there. Medivh F tier. Medivh just too difficult to play, too difficult to get value from. Not much else to say there. Is one of those where he's almost a meme pick in a lot of situations. Doesn't provide a whole lot of value. So unfortunately, that's going to be where he resides. Mei, another solid C tier. Mei is a tank who doesn't really bring a whole lot to the table. She has a slow, her avalanche, ice wall, both decent alts. A lot of people just die trying to avalanche. Very solid C tier. Other tanks do it better, so that's why she kind of gets herself placed in that tier. Mephisto, pretty strong. I I want to put him in B. So we're gonna go ahead and drop Mephisto in B tier. I feel like the higher he goes, in a weird way. Um, Maybe I'm biased because I'm playing Mephisto and I practiced him a lot, so I see the value in him. He does do a lot of damage. I feel like Mephisto's probably hover between B and C tier, but we're gonna go ahead and place him in B tier. I feel like he is a very, very strong mage. Muradin, solid A tier, just your all around average tank. Does what he does very well. Beefy frontline, stun, avatar for more health, haymaker, which I have very quickly realized how strong it can be with punishing the inexperience of players. Very, very steady A. Murky, we're going to put him in D. Again, we are talking about your silver. Gold Murky is not your Smurf. Diamond Murky is playing in silver. So Murky is going to be D, almost F tier. Your general silver, not going to get a whole lot of value from him. So we're going to go ahead and put him there. I hate Nazeebo. But I have to put Nazeebo in B tier. His popularity is there. He has a very good late game. Um, Nazeebo, no matter what anyone tells you, the higher you go, the lower Nazeebo goes. So, when you're talking bronze, silver, Nazeebo's probably up here. We're talking high silver, low gold. Nazeebo's going to start falling. You start getting to diamond, you're probably looking at Nazeebo in D tier. You hit Master GM, F. So, like the Nazeebo is one of those, much like Asmo, much like KT, where the higher you go in rank, the lower that character is going to be. So, um, but we're going to be settling Nazeebo in B tier. Nova, I hate Nova. Nova F tier, F to D tier. We'll probably elaborate a little bit on why. So the problem with Nova is she lacks wave clear. We're talking again about your silver gold Novas, not your Smurf Novas. When you get your legitimate silver Nova on your team, you definitely see the difference than when you have your diamond Nova smurfing in silver. She doesn't do a whole lot. She doesn't have wave clear until she either picks up precision strike at 10 or her AoE Q at level 16. So she doesn't really provide a whole lot of value there. Probius, same deal. You don't really see Probius too much. There's a reason for that. Very difficult to play at low ranks. Very, very easy to kill. I love Probius. I bust him out from time to time, but he doesn't really see a whole lot there. Kira, susceptible to CC, so we're going to go ahead and put her in that C tier. She can do a lot of value, similar to Lunara, similar to Malthil. A lot of dot damage, a lot of poison damage that can be very, very useful, but very susceptible to CC, very easy to kill. I'd almost put her in B tier. She probably hovers between C and B tier. But yeah, it's going to be where she resides. Rag, as much heat as I'm going to get for this, we're going to put Rag in B tier. And we're not, I'd almost put Rag in A tier. And I got to specify, I'm not putting Rag in B tier. I'm putting Lava Wave in B tier. If you pick Smash, Rag is easy D tier. If you're picking Smash, this is where Rag belongs. But if you're picking Lava Wave, which is what you should be picking, he is an easy B to A tier. Lava Wave being one of the best low ranking alts in the game, specifically saying low ranking alts in the game just because of all the experience you can soak that your team would otherwise not soak. So again, we're not putting Rag in B tier because we think Rag's good, or put him in B tier specifically because of Lava Wave and how much value it can get. Rainer Rainer's your very average, easy to learn, good early game character. The lower you get, the worse he gets, obviously. So we're going to go ahead and put him in that lower rank. So, or we're going to put him in the higher rank, but understand that he does fall as things progress. So Raynor's going to be your B tier. Like again, he has sustain, he has a PvE for BOE, and he just is all around does what he does well. Obviously, lack of mobility is going to be rough. Rhaegar, we're going to put probably an S tier. He'd hover between S and A tier. He's a very easy ban. These are your characters that probably should get nerfed too, along with Hogger. But Rhaegar is going to be just does his job very well. Can be aggressive. Ancestral healing very good. Even Bloodlust can get value in the right hands. But I feel like Rhaegar is just an all-around great healer. Rexar, we're gonna put Rexar in D. I I almost want to put him in C. He hovers between C and D tier. He has two maps where he's viable. Braxis Holdout and Dragonshire. The two maps where winning the solo lane is crucial. He is very, very good at holding points. I don't really see too much value otherwise. I call Rexar without Misha a watered down Zul'jin. That's essentially what he is to me. So he's going to be D tier. He does have his value. It is very niche on two specific maps, but that's not enough to raise him in the tier list more than what he is. Samuro, is a little gnat, but again, we're talking about your silver gold Samuros, not your smurfing diamond Samuros. So your general silver gold Samuro, is going to be a nuisance. We could almost put Samuro in C tier, but I am not a fan of Samuros. But you know what? We will put Samuro in C tier just because of the ability to swap images and drop debuffs and stuff. I don't find Samuros to be that threatening outside of Smurfs. Sergeant Hammer, we're going to put her in a solid C tier. She's not really, she's very easy to kill. Um, you very much need a comp that will protect her, and unless you get that, then you're going to end up, in a world of hurt. Sonya, very, very solid B. Again, susceptible to CC, much like a lot of things in this B tier, but she does have uh, does have very good sustain with her spin. So we're going to go ahead and drop her in there. Stitches, same thing, B tier. If you can land your hooks, which again, skill shot, which is always iffy at this elo, Stitches very solid here. Stukov is going to be that same boat where we are going to be putting him in B tier. His silence is what puts him up. He doesn't do the most healing. He doesn't have the most protection, but his silence is really strong to the point where Stukov is my number one ban, specifically because of Smurfs, but also that silence can just be brutal. Sylvanas, I'm going to put her in a solid B tier as well. Even your average Sylvanas players in gold, silver can definitely get value with her. Her ability to disable structures is very strong. But yeah, overall, very good. Tassadar, honestly, I want to S tier him because Tass is literally my main. Tass is probably one of the characters I have played the most. If we're talking about me personally, obviously I would put Tass in S or A tier, but as much as it pains me, I would say Tass is a solid B or a C. Very susceptible to CC, self roots himself to oblivion. Wall on level 4 is kind of what sets him apart, along with Black Hole. Um, Tass is going to be a B to a C tier. If we're being honest, and again, it pains me to say it, but we got to be realistic. Tass is a very solid between B and C tier mage. Other mages do it better, but I personally love Tassadar, but we're going to be realistic about where he belongs, and we're going to put him between a B and a C tier because of his lack of mobility, his self-rooting that he does, and just overall telegraph positioning, you could say. Butcher, not a fan of butchers. Again, vegan butchers are all too common. Butcher's going to hover between D and C tier. You, we're going to put him in C just because of the feeding that can happen. Feeding is very, very prevalent in lower ranks. So that's the only reason he doesn't get that D tier is because it is potentially easy to get stacked at those lower ranks just because of the amount of feeding that happens. Obviously, Vikings are going to be F. No one who is legitimately silver or gold should ever be picking Vikings. There's just no way. No way around it there. Same thing. Thrall, we're going to put in B tier. Again, susceptible to CC, very good sustain, very good mobility, has two decent ults. Just an all around very, very good solo laner. Tracer. Tracer we're going to put in C. Again, she's very susceptible to CC, but as I've said many times, CC is not as useful of a defense in low ranks. So Tracer gets a solid C. Obviously, it is skill dependent, but we're going to be putting her there. Tychus is going to be a solid B tier. His percent damage is very strong. He probably hovers between B and A tier, but we'll go ahead and settle him in the B tier. Very, very good there. Tyrael. Tyrael's going to hover between C and B. I see some Tyraels, but not a whole lot. Most Tyraels go Judgment. He can get a lot of value with heavy engage comps, but overall, he provides a shield. But other than that, similar to Stitches, he doesn't really provide a whole lot else. The reason Stitches gets B and he gets C is because Stitches has that hook, whereas Tyrael's just kind of there. Tyrande, not a fan. I love Tyrande. She's one of my first healers I ever played. She's going to be a very solid D tier. She is not a very good healer. Her being auto attack based is a very difficult kit to try to execute in the silver gold rank. So not much to say there. Her owls are super annoying. I get hit by every single owl, but yeah, that is where she's going to reside. Uther is going to probably be a solid B tier, just because Uther is your all around very niche specific healer when it comes to countering burst. He's got a point and click stun, which in the lower ranks, having not having to land your stuns like a Nubrak, not having to land your stuns like Muradin. Uther has a point and click stun that you can get. That's pretty much what gives him the edge here. He has a very large shield with his Q. Granted, it's on a long cooldown, which is why he won't reach any higher than B tier. Divine Shield, very good. Divine Storm, very good as well. So obviously, Uther does have his disadvantages when it comes to being countered by poison damage like Nazeebo and Lunara, but a very, very solid pick here. Valeera, we're going to put Valeera in D tier. Just again, we're talking about silver gold Valeeras, so I feel like they're not really going to be that effective. They just kind of run around and do nothing. They do potentially get good ganks, but as anyone who's watched me play Valeera, you end up dying 9 times out of 10, not really providing a whole lot of value for your team. So that's going to be where the Valeera lies. Vala, we're going to put Vala in A tier. Valas are relatively, I wouldn't say, they're very squishy. They're very susceptible to CC, but they're very elusive in that, their mobility with their E. There's Q build for BOE. Auto attack is a pretty popular build. I don't play it myself, and as much hate as I get for saying it, W is a very good wave clear build if you do end up in a team comp where you need it. W very, very much the least popular of the two. Auto attack probably most popular, followed by Q. I would say she hovers between A and B tier, but overall, I would almost want to put her in B tier. I feel like, I don't know. I feel like A tier might be a little bit high for Vala, though. I don't know. We'll put her in A. We're gonna settle Vala in A tier just because of what she can bring to the table. Even if you're a silver gold player, if you get proper protection from your healers, you can be kind of allowed to run wild. So we're gonna go ahead and put her in A, but she is very much hovering between that A and the B tier. Varian, B, susceptible to CC. Taunt, very strong. Smash, decent. Twin Blades, not great. But Taunt is the reason you should always be picking up Varian. So I feel like that's going to be a good one there. I think he's a very solid B tier. Zul, we're going to be putting in, I would say Zul hovers between B and A tier. He does have the ability to double soak. I don't think, just because of the sustain that Leo has, I put Leo slightly above Zul. I think Zul does it just fine. I think Zul double soaks probably slightly better just because of the push that comes along with his soak with the minions that he spawns. But I feel like the trait on Leo is kind of what sets him slightly above and pushes him to the A tier. But I would say Zul does hover between that B and the A tier. And I do, generally don't mind having Zuls on my team sometimes. Yrel, unfortunately, I don't really see Yrel that much. I don't really. She's very difficult to play. She's very difficult to play well. So I don't think that Yrel's really that great. She doesn't really do a whole lot. She's very, just kit based. So not really too much with her. Zagara, we're going to say B tier. She is very good at pushing. She does decent damage. Late game, I always say she's kind of like a slope. Her damage starts out good in the early game. Mid game is when her damage is at her weakest, and then she has that late game power spike with Corrosive Saliva at 16. But that's going to be, Zagara in a nutshell. And obviously, she has that split push capability, even though it has gotten nerfed over the years. Zarya, we're going to put her in C. She hovers between C and D tier. I am not a big fan of Zarya's, but they do have their value when players really don't know not to attack the shield. So she's going to get I think, hover between C and D tier. Pretty solid for Zarya there. Zeratul, D. Again, your low ranking Zeratals aren't really going to be anything that scary. Again, we are talking about silver gold Zeratals, not your Smurf diamond Zeratals, who are going to definitely. Zeratul is probably A, B, or even S tier at higher ranks, but we're talking about low ranks played by low ranking players. Zeratul very much is going to fall into that category. Last but not least, we are looking at Zul'jin. Zul'jin, just because of the low health, he is going to be B tier just because of the um, just because he can get a lot of value with his kit, with his auto attack speed, getting a lot of those stacks, but also, as we know with Zul'jin's, them putting themselves at that low health can be a detriment to themselves. So Zul'jin can be a very solid B tier. But this is going to be our tier list. We have 5 S tiers, several A tiers. What do you guys think? Obviously, I know I'm going to get some heat for these. But what do you guys think? We're going to go ahead and get this video uploaded. But I do encourage you guys, again, make sure you guys do check out my YouTube channel. Um, Check out my other videos. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe on this video. Let me know your thoughts on the tier list. What should be higher? What should be lower? What do you guys think? And also make sure you guys do check out my Twitch channel. I stream 4 to 5 times a week. I will be posting a link to that down below in the description. Again, this is videos going on about 40 minutes, a little over 40 minutes. But we did go into a decent explanation of why every hero was where it was. We haven't done one of these tier lists in a couple of years, so I'm very happy to get another one of these out to you guys. Again, this is for the silver gold rank. We are currently reside in high silver, low gold. We hover anywhere up to the high end of gold. So this is generally where I feel these characters belong. But I do appreciate all of you guys, watching this video. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good night, everybody.